Hi, welcome back. We are making Sage and Azrael, also known as the Savior and the Demon. These two are a doll pair, so more the work, but after all, they came out really good. I'm really excited to share this one and show the process that's being made, so I'm really excited. But on that note, I do want to explain I had some things going on in the background during this making. So if there's not as much being shown or clips may look really weird, that is why. So I do apologize for that. I may not show as much as I have with Jolly and the Plague Doctor, but I did want to explain that at least. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the video. As we move on to make their heads, I started off with Sage head first, but I did get Azrael's head started. I did kind of do them on different streams, but Sage got her own head made in one stream, and as I was working on her chest and her hips area, Azrael was getting his head worked on as well. So they kind of got their own streams, but as we move on to the painting process, they did get their own stream. So Azrael got his own stream, and then Sage has her own. So one thing to mention with Sage, most of my dolls have at least eyes inserted in, or at least a eye, but with Sage, due to her lore and her background, she has no eyes. So I will typically go in the same steps as I usually do, start with the nose, the lips, and then move up to the eyes. Instead of putting eyes in, I will indicate where the eyes will sit, and then I will scope on her eyelids basically. So while Sage head bakes in the oven, I work on Ozol's face a little bit, even though I do work on it at more off stream, but do majority of it on stream. Just mostly getting his nose and mouth done. But once Sage comes out of the oven, I get the tinfoil removed out her head, and of course, once Ozol gets baked, he will get the same treatment. move on making Sage's chest and hips area, and also majority of Ozril's face. Also off to the side, off stream, I made his horns real quick, so I wasn't having to worry about that on stream, and also it was going to be easier to pre-make those before I get his head baked, even though I didn't put it on when his head was baking. But anyways, while his head was baking, or while her chest or hips were baking, I was switching back and forth between the head and her chest and her hips area. So you may see that I'm working on her mask area because she does have a golden mask. That mask right there was not used at all. I made one off stream. I was having a lot of troubles getting her mask made, so yeah, it was not fun making that, but I eventually settled on one near the end, and most likely I'm probably gonna remake it again. But for right now, it works, and you will see that updated mask at the very end. as we move on to the painting, I started off with Sage first because Sage does have a lot of details on her face, her hands, and her feet. A lot of scarring, a lot of redness, and so on and so forth. But also has a lot of details on him. But you will see me go ahead and get his head painted black. So when I go on to his painting process, I can do a lot more shading and really nice detail on him as well. As we move on to paint Audro's face, or more likely add more of the details on his face, hands, and feet, I added like a white mask area onto his face. I did try to make it look like a skull a little bit, but basically all that does is help break up a lot of the black and show more details onto his face and make it look nicer. When I was painting his hands and feet, I did make a bit of a lighter brown color on accident, but it actually helped out a lot in the long run to add the actual brown color I wanted onto it. So, in ways, it made up pop more, so happy accidents basically. After painting the brown on his hands, feet, and horns, I move in adding a little bit of red on the tip of his smaller horns and on his palms of his hands. And after that dries, or while it is drying, I go in and add the colors to his gums and his teeth.
It's such a pain to close my eyes. I'm falling in this deep immerse. Would you ever show me through?
began to put them together. I started off with Sage first. She's like the typical Baldrinja doll, all held together by elastic with a hook in her head, hands, and feet keeping her all together. After getting Oswald's joints together, which are these special plastic skeletons that you use a special type of pliers to put them together, I grabbed some cloth batting and wrap him up so we can get some shape to his body.
It's like a glitch I can't control. Someone's fucking with my dough. Kinda voodoo shit, you know. You won't find me tongue-tied. No witness on my side. Harmonies when I cry.
I wanted to come in and explain real quick that I didn't get any footage of me sewing clothing / fur for Sage and Ozrel. It was due to the fact that I was trying to get this done in a timely manner. I will be on vacation probably by the time this comes out, and I didn't want to worry about it when I came back from vacation. So I do apologize there's no sewing progress on here. So with that being said, we're going to move right on to the photo shoot.
This stuff makes me nauseous, losing what they taught us. Gotta tread real cautious. But I go back to default. I go back to default. I go back Someone's fucking with my dough. Kinda voodoo shit, you know. But you won't find me tongue-tied. No witness on my side. Harmonies when I...
It took me about 3 weeks to get Sage and Ozrel made, from sculpting, painting, and sewing. I did have my ups and downs with them, especially within the sewing process, but I am very happy how they turn out and they look great together. But with that all being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful morning, evening, and good night.